talk to you about summer knitting and one crochet trend. Technically, it is not summer here in the Northern Hemisphere for a couple of more weeks, but let's face it, it is basically summer. At least based on the weather, it is currently 88 degrees here in central Maryland. That is definitely summer. It's also about 1,000% humidity. And boy, that sun was hot when I went out earlier. So it is definitely summer. Let's talk about what we are knitting this season. So I'm going to be sharing 5 trends that I have noticed in terms of the things that people are knitting, the patterns that are being released, the yarn that is being used, that are all coming together to make some knitting trends for summer 2024. And of course, for each of these, I'm going to be sharing some pattern ideas. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, the number one summer knitting trend I am seeing is kind of an overall trend of creating and releasing actual summer garments for actual summer yarns. So I feel like in the past, summer has kind of been relegated to the season where you focus on shawls and socks, or you are still working on sweaters for the fall. And the actual kind of summer projects that were being released, even if they had sort of a summer silhouette, maybe they were sleeveless or short-sleeved, were still being knit in wool yarn. And for a great deal of countries, wool is not an option in the summer. Certainly here in central Maryland, no. It's so hot! This summer, I've really noticed a trend of a lot more patterns being released that are definitively for summer and are being worked in summer yarn. So that is non-wool yarn. And I think a big reason for this is that in the past, your options for warm weather yarns were basically cotton or linen. And each of those individually has its challenges. So if you haven't watched it yet, please do check out my video. I think it's over here now. On tips and tricks for knitting, working with summer yarns. Could be crochet, but mostly geared toward knitting. Separately, 100% cotton yarns and 100% linen yarns can be challenging to work with. Cotton, for example, can be still very heavy, even for the summer, even though it's cotton, especially in the heavier weights. And linen can just be difficult to work with. It tends to bias. If you're working in the round, it's hard on your hands. But now we're seeing a lot more of blends, which I think is great. So a lot of cotton linen blends, cotton silk, cotton linen viscose, I think, which is a lot of people are calling it a plant-based yarn, and technically, yes, it is made from bamboo, but it is very highly processed. But still, it's not wool, and it is very drapey for summer. So, for example, with that cotton linen yarn, you were getting some structure from your cotton, and you're getting your drape from your viscose, and you are getting some breathability from your linen. So you're really bringing together a lot of great qualities, and they're really balancing each other out. Just as an example, I recently got this yarn from Hobby, or is it pronounced Hobie? I heard somebody pronounce it Hobie the other day, but I just assumed it was Hobby, like knitting is your hobby. But they're from like Norway or Denmark or Sweden or something, so maybe not. Anyway. If you know, leave a comment. I got this yarn. This is their Friends Cotton Linen, and it is actually 50% cotton, 35% viscose, 15% linen. And I have started working with this, and it is easy on my hands. It is nice and airy. It is so light. So again, you're getting this blend of these all summery fibers, making a really pleasant to work with and pleasant to wear yarn for the summer. So, and there are, plenty of other companies that are making similar yarns. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking Sandnes-Garn, I don't know if it's called Line or Lina, L-I-N-E. I think that is kind of the same blend, cotton, linen, viscose, and they've got a worsted weight and they have a fingering weight. So, really seeing a trend this summer, moving away from just garments knit in like a fingering weight wool, which is really not a summer project, to summery garments in summery yarns. So I will point out two tops in particular that I have noticed were released recently. One of these is the Leela top by Kadri. This is knit in a cotton linen yarn, and you can see it is sleeveless and looks nice and drapey. So the yarn is a fingering weight cotton linen from Pasquale. So you see it just looks nice and drapey and comfortable. It's got that, you know, loose neckline and obviously no sleeves. Great for summer and actually in summer yarn. And then the other one that I know has been somewhat recent is the Tolsta Tank. This is a pattern by Rebecca Chow. Personally, I'm not a stripe person, but to each their own. And this is done in that Sandus Garn line, which is a worsted weight. And I personally think that that's a little heavy for summer, but it really just depends on where you live. That could be perfectly comfortable, you know, somewhere where it's less humid and a little cooler, like Maine. And that, again, is a cotton rayon linen blend that's gonna really just combine a lot of nice things. Drape, breathability, structure, it's got it all. So, number one trend, actual summer garments in actual summer yarn, and I'm so happy to see it. All right, trend number two for the summer of 2024 is that we are really showing some skin. So I have just been seeing so many patterns that are sleeveless, that are see-through, kind of a sheer fabric with lots of eyelets. So you've got skin showing through, you know, big scoop necks in the back or in the front. Overall, I think more than in the past, we are showing some skin this summer. So cropped garments have already, you know, been making a comeback, which is lovely for people who are not 43 and birthed 2 children. But even if you're not comfortable with the cropped trend, you can still, you know, show a little skin without giving away the whole farm with some of the patterns that I've been seeing. So I think this is really nice for summer because, again, for most of us, summer is hot. Summer is, you know, unless you've got air conditioning, and thank God for it, summer is really uncomfortable, and we want to be able to, you know, still wear our knitwear, but we want to try to stay cool. And so I really think these patterns that are either showing more skin with, you know, sleeveless designs or big scoop necks or cropped, but also the patterns that are incorporating stitches that are giving you a really airy fabric, whether that's, you know, working at a really loose gauge to create very transparent kind of sheer fabric, whether it's incorporating lots of eyelets or really just really open lace. Overall, I think this is good. It is a challenge though, because we need to work on our undergarments sometimes. If you are not comfortable showing lots of skin, or, you know, if those eyelets are in unfortunate places where you don't want things showing through, we do have to be a little bit more conscientious about our undergarments. So, you know, for example, I am clearly wearing a strapless bra. That is something that I can wear. For women who are more well endowed, that is really not an option. For women who, you know, are maybe part of the IBTC, maybe you don't even need to wear a bra. Again, not something that is really for women who are 43 and have had 2 children, but for many of us, that is an option. So I really like this trend, but definitely something to consider is the implications for our underwear. Crazy underwear! So again, I want to share a couple of patterns that have caught my eye. The first one is the eyelet raglan. Now this is not, it's kind of worked in a summer yarn. So, so she is using a fingering weight linen held double with a lace weight mohair. this would be so uncomfortable here in the summer. It would be so sticky. I already think that mohair has a tendency to be a little bit prickly, but if it is hot out and you are sweaty, it would be terrible. But I am sure that there are places where this works just fine. She also has, so she has a couple different versions. There's another one that uses a fingering weight silk held double with a suri. That might be a little less prickly, still too hot depending on where you're from. But this is combining two of the things that I just mentioned, which is creating a sheer fabric with that, that lace weight or a fingering weight mohair, suri, whatever it might be, and striping that together with an overall eyelet pattern. So this is a really light and airy project, perhaps better suited to late spring or early fall than the middle of summer, but your mileage may vary. But overall, this is just really cute. This is definitely on my list. I think I've already put this in my queue. Yes, I have. I definitely want to get one of these for myself, not for the summer, but again, maybe for the fall. The next pattern I want to share with you guys is called Iris, and this is an all over lace design. All right, this is a design by Yumiko Alexander, and this is an all over lace in what is also a sheer fabric. So the yarn she used is actually a DK, which is kind of surprising given how sheer it is, probably working on very large needles. But it is a silk cotton DK, so very nice for summer. Even knit on a US 7, this is creating a very sheer fabric. So there's a short sleeve and a long sleeve version, but it is just so airy and drapey. Definitely need to wear a tank top under this unless you're going to use it as a beach cover-up, which it would maybe be a nice option. That's something I would probably consider. And especially in this like white fabric, this just looks so summery, so light and airy. I love this. This next one is basically only for those of us, not me, who can go braless in public. This is the filigree cami, and as you can see, the back of this is completely sheer. And it has really deep armholes. So basically, I mean, maybe, so basically anything underneath of this is going to be on display. And this is for the lucky ladies who can probably go braless, or again, maybe use this as a beach cover up. But this is so beautiful. All that lace, I absolutely love it. This is a pattern by Marcena Kolacek, and or maybe it's Kolacek. I don't know the accents. I don't speak Polish. Anyway. And she used the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which I am currently using on a project and is lovely. It is a fingering weight. It is 100% silk, but it is not like what you would normally think of as a silk. It is what's called a barrette silk, which is kind of made with leftovers from the regular silk production process, so it's not as slippery, which is actually good in some ways. It doesn't grow the way that other silk does. It's a little sturdier, but it does also not like shiny like the other kind of silk. You might be thinking it's kind of has a nice sheen, and this really doesn't. You can see not much sheen here, but really lovely. So this is absolutely adorable. I would absolutely make this if I thought I would ever actually have an opportunity to wear it. I don't think I would. But for those of us who, again, are comfortable without some support undergarments under our tops, this is absolutely adorable. So cute. And it must be so airy with that open back. Love it. I really have a lot of examples here. So I'm just going to show you guys one more for our showing some skin trend, and that is, if you have watched some of my recent videos, I mentioned this. I really absolutely love this. This is the Kylie pullover. This is by Irene Lynn Designs. The eyelets, the cables, I love it. It's definitely sheer. She has a full kind of, what's it called? The bell sleeve, like where the sleeves get wider at the end. Long sleeve, and then sort of a 3/4 length sleeve. My only complaint about this is that it is knit in a worsted weight yarn, and I still think, even with all the eyelets, that would be too heavy for me for the summer. It is also using the Sandisgarn Lina, or however that's pronounced. I might have to take the leap just because I love this so much, or I could try to resize the whole thing for a fingering weight yarn. Do I have time to do that? No, my kids are now out of school. I don't even know how I'm gonna do my regular work, let alone that, but I absolutely love this. This is beautiful. All right, trend number 3, button down like t-shirts and polos. This is not something that appeals to me personally, but it is something I have just been seeing a lot of. Either, you know, a short sleeve, what is essentially a t-shirt that is buttoned down and has like a little polo collar. I can definitely see how this is popular. It looks very comfortable, and it looks like they would be fun to knit as well. I'm just surprised I don't know where this kind of came from. They almost kind of look like bowling shirts. I don't know, but I'm interested. I find it interesting that this has suddenly become a thing. So I will show you a couple of these. I have no idea how to pronounce this one. Tuileries Polo by Sormine Kim. So this is not really knit in a summer weight yarn, but it is a merino cotton, so it's not necessarily a heavy winter weight yarn. But as you can see, this has just this little like polo collar and cute buttons. I know there's kind of been a trend in general in fashion for this kind of top, this more casual, looser fitting clothes. So maybe that is what inspired this. It does have sort of a nice lacy pattern, so even though it is using a part wool yarn, it's probably a little bit more breathable, and it is a sport weight yarn, so it's not super heavy. Just really cute take on a traditional polo shirt that I just, again, it's not my style, but I do think it is adorable. All right, another one of these adorable little button-down polos is the Umbria Summer Top. This is by Cookie the Knitter. This is knit using the pure silk from Knitting for Olive, so this is going to be nice and cool. It's fingering weight. Again, you got like an all over texture here and just that adorable little collar that I just love. Lots of projects for this already, 300 some projects. It's a really cute casual look for summer, especially again in that white yarn. It looks a little bit sheer and it just looks really comfortable. All right, and then the last one I'm going to show you is from a designer who is near and dear to my heart because I translate patterns for her. And that is the Polo Luna by Mochi Knits. This is adorable. This is not really a summer project in terms of the yarn, so it is done in an alpaca yarn, but she has this really cute kind of like scalloped edge on the front. Did I translate this pattern? I think I did. Well, it's available in English, so probably I did. But this is adorable because, again, you've got this little button front and this adorable collar, but she also has this scalloped edge on the button band that is just so sweet. I just think this is adorable. So she uses a sport weight 100% alpaca. Personally, I am not a fan of making garments in 100% alpaca because it doesn't have enough structure, in my opinion. But because this one has a lot of other elements that are going to give you structure, so it's got a button band, it's got these the drop shoulder where you're picking up the sleeves, and that is adding structure. It's got this very neat structured collar. I think it's going to help counteract a lot of that alpaca. And of course, you could work this in another kind of yarn. Probably not necessarily a plant-based yarn, just because they function so differently than an alpaca. Maybe something like a wool cotton would work nicely for this. All right, trend number 4. I'm going to show you right on what I'm wearing, and that is ties. I am seeing lots of garments that are being closed with ties. So this is a design I'm going to be publishing next month, and as you can see, it has ties on the shoulders, and I'm not the only one doing this. I have seen this in a number of other pieces as well. I love this because ties are so adjustable. Not only just from a general standpoint, but because over time, your garment is going to tend to stretch lengthwise, almost no matter what it is knit in. Over time, just the weight of the garment and you wearing it is probably going to stretch things lengthwise. And when you have ties that are adjustable, you can fix that so easily. You might not even notice it happening. So I just think ties are a really clever way to make your clothing more flexible for counteracting things like lengthening, for it can be tricky to measure, and if you measure a little bit off, but you've got a tie closure somewhere along the way, you can adjust that so much more easily. So, as like I said, I am publishing this next month. This is my orilla top that kind of hits the mark for a lot of the things that I've been talking about today. So we have ties, we have eyelets, we have obviously sleeveless, a relatively open back. This pattern is going to be available next month, so you will be able to make your very own top with ties. But as I said, I am not the only one doing this. So I know that Kadri recently shared a photo of an a design that is somewhat similar to this, that also has ties. I believe hers are at the back of the neck. It also features a casing like this to hold the ties. It's a little concerning, but I'm gonna get mine published first, so no confusion there. And then the designer I was just sharing, Mochi Knits, has an already published pattern with ties, and I just finished translating for her another pattern with ties that I know is currently in testing. So I'm just gonna show you the one that has already been published. This is the top sole, and this is using 100% linen. So it's a nice top with the ties, and also you've got that summer yarn in there to make this just a really comfortable top for the summer that is really easy to adjust. So the ties are in the front. The new design sheet has coming out. The ties are in the back. And this is, you could tie it so that the front is entirely closed. You could leave it open a little bit, it just making things really adjustable. So nice and drapey for the summer. I don't know this particular yarn, which is Camarose Love Tend Organic Linen. Never heard of that before, but I'm sure it's lovely. It is a DK weight, so it's a little heavy, but a DK weight linen is not going to be as heavy as like a DK weight cotton. So that has that going for it. So again, that was the top sole, another tied top to add to the collection of another pattern to add to the collection of patterns featuring ties that are taking over the world this summer. All right, and the last one is not actually a knitting trend, it is a crochet trend, but I think we can all agree we're seeing granny squares everywhere.
Oh, it's just crochet time.
I don't know what the percentage of knitters who also crochet is. How would I ever know that? And I barely crochet, so I definitely understand that it can be really frustrating to encounter patterns that are really adorable and then think, well, boo, I can't even make this. But granny squares seem to be having a moment, not just existing in blankets, but being incorporated into other things, and particularly garments. The only problem with this is that a lot of the crochet tops that I have been seeing people wear, especially on Instagram, they're just like, I made some granny squares and sewed them together. So there's no patterns. I suppose if you are more knowledgeable about crochet, you probably at this point know the ins and outs of granny squares and think, I could just make some granny squares and do this myself. But especially for me, who is a very, very, very beginner crochetist, it's a real bummer that people are wearing like the cutest tank tops, or like, I just sewed 3 big granny squares together and ta-da. I'm like, well, I can't do that. But I have found a couple of granny square patterns that I just wanted to share. So the first one It's really a sweater, so not really for summer, but the granny squares themselves are going to be great to work on during the summer and then, you know, put all together for your fall cardigan. So this is a Jethro by Tanis Lavely. And Tanis is one of the people on my list because she shared this photo on Instagram of this adorable tank top and then was like, there's no pattern. I just kind of made it up and I probably won't release a pattern. And that doesn't help me in any way. But the Jethro cardigan is also adorable and there is a pattern for that. And then the other thing I think is really cute and a nice way to accessorize this summer is this Stevie bum bag. I actually bought myself some yarn to try to make one of these. As I said, I'm a very beginning crocheter. I just managed to kind of crochet my first granny square last week. And it had a lot of problems. But the thing I like about the granny squares is that since I'm new, even though crochet generally is faster than knitting, since I'm new at it, I'm still really slow. But the granny square is still pretty fast, even for me, even though I'm going slow. And when I mess it up, I don't feel like I have put, you know, so much work into it. I can just rip it out and try it again. So I definitely am going to try to make this Stevie bum bag and maybe have it by the time I head to the beach this year. We shall see. I did buy some yarn. So granny squares, not really knitting, obviously. Crochet is still a big summer trend. And if you know how to make a couple of granny squares and sew it into a tank top, you are set for a very vintage 70s summer. All right, so there you have it, the 5 knitting / crochet trends that I have spotted for summer 2024. If you have spotted any trends and want to share, please do in the comments. Again, I will be releasing this summary pattern next month. If you want to make sure that you find out about that, be sure to sign up for my newsletter. There is a link in the description box down below. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you found it entertaining or interesting, I hope you will give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. New videos here every Saturday, almost all about knitting. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Media Peruana, and I will see you next time.